Hi, this is a tutorial for Code.org Unit 5 Lesson 9. So I have Lesson 9 up here on the screen right now. What we're doing in Lesson 9 is using if statements and conditional logic, and these three operators, the and, the or, and the not operator. You can read through this on your own. I'll go to the next part. This is a video that you could watch if you wanted to watch for some additional information on how these work, but I'm going to show most of them to you anyway, so I'll skip that. I'm going to skip this as well. This shows you how the if-else-if blocks work and things you can mess up on them, so I'll skip that. You can, if you have a problem, come back to that. And this is our first problem to solve. And what it wants us to do is recreate a movie ratings example that was shown in the video, and it gives you the console log statements to start out. So first thing we want to do, our task, it says, is to add an if-else-if statement with the appropriate boolean expressions, and then move the console log statements into the right clause so the correct message gets displayed. So I'm going to drag an if-else-if statement in here. I'm going to get rid of this little spacer. And so what I'm doing is coming up with several situations here. So if the user's age is over 17 or over, they can see an R-rated movie. That's the first thing that I'm going to put up in here. And I'm going to need some more if statements, so I'm going to hit the little plus sign here. It's going to add a few more. The next thing I want to see is if they can see a PG-13 movie. Then the next thing I want to see is if they can see a PG movie. And then the last thing is if they're too young for most things. So that would be the last case here. And then this last console log statement here is just says thanks for verifying, and it will play after all of these have after one of those has gone through. So first thing I want to do is I want to see how old the person is. So I'm going to use a math block for that. I'm going to use the this one here is 17 or over. So I'm going to use the if age is greater than 17, greater than or equal to. So the first thing it's going to do is ask me for my age. So it has a variable called age. It's prompting for that number. How many years old are you? And here I'm going to type in age because that's the variable. If age is greater than, and this 17, then we want it to say you can see an R movie alone. Then I'm going to, if it's 13 and over, then I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to do another greater than, and this is going to be if age is greater than 13, greater than or equal to 13, then they can see a PG movie 13 or PG-13 movie alone. And the next one is going to be another greater than if the user is 5 or over. So this one is going to be age is greater than or equal to 5, and then this should give me everything that I need. One thing that's important is that we did this in this order, that we started with greater than 17, then we went to greater than 13, then we went to greater than 5. If we did it the other way and you were 17, this would activate because 17 would be greater than 5, and it would say you could see the PG movie, but we don't want to do that because what happens with these if statements is they go in sequential order. So the first it tests the case here. If that's not true, then it tests the next one. If that's not true, then it tests the next one. If that's not true, and then it goes on and on like that. So let's go ahead and run it, see if it works. It says how many years old. I'm going to say that I am 17, and then it says you can see an R movie alone, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Let me try it again. Let me go to 15 now, and 15, and now it's telling me I can see a PG-13 movie alone, which that's what I wanted to say. And the next one I'm going to do is we'll say 10, and it says PG movie alone. That's what I wanted to do. Now what happens if I'm younger than 5? So let's run it one more time. Let's say I'm 4 years old. It says I'm too young for most things. So that worked properly. Big thing, remember, like we said, that has to be in sequential order. So now I'm going to move on to the next one. And in part 5, what we want to do is we'll input a grade, like a score, for example 84 here, and we want the output to be the letter grade. So what it says here is don't forget the order that we check them matters in this case, just like in the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and drag an if else statement in there. I want to get rid of that little spacer, and I'm going to need some more spots here. So I'm going to add some more cases, and the first one I want to do is if it's an A, and I'm going to do it in this order because I'm going to go from highest to lowest, and then so on. I'll just keep dragging these in. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my math blocks, and now what I wanted to say here is if I have a score greater than greater than or equal to 90, I have an A. So I'm going to do the greater than or equal to, and then I'm going to say if score, because that's our variable that we're using here, is greater than or equal to 90, then it'll say your quiz grade is an A. So for the next one, I'm going to use greater than or equal for all of these. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag a few up there while I have them here, and then I want the score to be greater than or equal to 80 for a B. I'm going to come down to the next one. I want the score to be greater than or equal to 70 for a C, and I want the score to be greater than or equal to 60 for a D. And then the last one I didn't put a case in because it's not necessary, because if it's not greater than or equal to 60, if it's anything lower than that, then it's going to show me this quiz grade score is an F. So let's go ahead and test that. Hit run. It says what's my score. Let's say I've got a 91, and it says I have an A. So that's working correctly. Let's try, let's say I have an 85. It says I have a B. That's correct. Let's try it again. Let's say a 72, saying I have a C. That's correct. And let's try it with a 60. Oops, not a 600. That would be an A. Then it's a D. That's correct. Let's run it with a low grade of, say, a 30. And it says that's an F. That's correct. So remember, the order is important because first it's checking this first case if it's greater than 90. If we had this reverse and we started out with 60, then every grade would be a D. So we can't do that way. We have to make sure that we start with the highest and go down to the lowest. So that's pretty easy. Let's finish that. Let's go on to 6. Okay, so this one is guessing a secret number using the else if. Now, in this case, what they're saying is we want to add something to this, because as it stands right now, if we use this, it's going to tell us whether we got it or whether we didn't get it. But what it wants us to add in here is 2 more cases, that if their guess was higher than the number or their guess was lower than the number. So it says to use a conditional with if and else if and a final else to implement this. Okay, so what I've got is, as it stands right now, if I click run, it says pick a number in the drop down. So I pick a number, and let's say I pick 3. It says nope, that's not it. Now I can see the code here that the secret number is 6, because the variable secret number is equal to 6. That's not going to change. It's going to stay the same in this program. So if I did pick 6, it says you got it. But if I pick anything else, it just says nope, that's not it. So what we want to do is tell them to go higher or lower. So in this case, I'm going to need some more statements here, and probably just a couple more. Actually, probably just one more, so I can just delete one of those. So what's going to happen here is, if the user guesses the secret number on the first try, it's going to say you got it. What I want to do is I want to add something in here that says that it's higher or lower. So I'm going to add another one in here, and if the first one, I'm going to say, instead of guess again, I'm going to say nope, that's not it, guess higher. And then the second one, I'm going to say, I'm going to copy this first, and I'm going to paste it down here, and then I'm just going to say guess lower. I might have to change the order of these to look at this in a second, but then I'm going to make that the user message also. So then now I want to say is for my math blocks, I want the greater than or less thans. So if it's greater, what if I'm saying here, let's see, if this user guess, and I may move these around, I'm just plugging them in right now, is greater than the secret number, then I want it to say guess lower. So for example, if the secret number is 6 and they guess an 8, which is greater than the secret number, I want it to say nope, guess lower. And the other one I can use is a less than. So I can say if the user guess is less than the secret number, make sure I spell my variables correctly, then it's going to say nope, that's it, guess higher. So I think that's going to work. Let's try it out. Say reset and run. Pick a number. Say 2. Nope, that's not it, guess higher. 3, guess higher. 5, guess higher. 6, you got it. Okay, so go down to 10. It's saying guess lower. Guess lower. 7 says nope, that's not it, guess lower. So this works. So what it's doing is it's looking at my secret number, which is 6. This is set in advance and doesn't change in this program. It's on the event of when this thing here, which is called pick number, if I go back to reset, you can see I mouse over it. The ID is pick number. So when pick number is changed, so when it goes from pick number to one of the numbers, it's going to take that number from pick number and assign it as the user guess, the variable user guess. And then if that user guess is equal to the secret number, it's going to say you got it. If the user guess is less than the secret number, it's going to say guess higher. And if the user guess is greater than the secret number, it's going to say guess lower. So that one's pretty easy. Go to the next one. 7. Now 7 gets a little trickier here, because now what they want to do is they want us to add in a condition if they're close. So if they get within 2, either plus or minus 2, then it's going to say it's close but guess higher, or close but guess lower. And what they've already done, they've already kind of put this together here for you, but it has a problem. So they want us to run it first to make sure, see what's wrong with it, and then try to fix the order of the conditionals, because remember we said the order of these is important. And if you look here, it gives us a hint, and it says the major problem here is that the conditional statements run in order from top to bottom. So remember that you have to check the smallest, most narrow case first, and then work your way up from there. The conditions might be slightly non-intuitive at first glance, which means that it might not make sense, might take some thinking to do this, but you have to rearrange these. Now, it says to rearrange them in text mode, which is easier because if I want to take, let's say I want to take this one and I want to move it up, I can't do that because there's nowhere to put it. I can't like put it somewhere, and I don't want to do that. So what you can do is switch to text mode, and you can do it that way. I'm going to go ahead and just do it in blocks mode because it probably shows up on the screen a little better that way. But I want to get rid of this little spacer there. And look at the program here. It says the secret number is still 6. The variable guess hasn't been assigned yet. In the last problem, they had this variable down here, and they had assigned it at right when you pick the number. Here they set up the variable first, and then you pick the number and assign it to the guess variable. So then it's saying if guess is equal to my number, then you say you win. And now here's where the problem happens. So if we run this, and let's say we change it to 3, it says guess higher but close, but that's not right, because 3 plus 2 is 5, and 5 is not it's not within 2. It's not within 2. So 6, it still says you win. 8, guess lower but close, guess lower. So the upper end works. It looks like 6 works, 7 works, 8 works, 9 and 10. So it's just this lower end that doesn't work. So if it's the lower end, it's this one here that is not working. The guess lower but close. So down these ones down here, and the reason is because right here we want to go from the narrowest case to the more broader case. So right here, this we could say this is the narrowest case. It really doesn't matter where this one is because this one's exact. So the one that's equal, guess is equal to my number, you win. That can be at the top or the bottom. It's going to work either way. But these are not, because what's going to happen here is it's jumping out of this if statement before it checks all the cases, because this case right here is narrower than these two. So this -2, this guess is less than my number -2, should be up higher. So what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and just take this one out and throw it away, and I'm going to drag this up here, and not right there. I'm going to try to put it right there. We go. So I've got this case here, the exact case, the narrower range of options, and then the rest of the options. So I'm going to take another one of those. I think I pulled out a less than maybe, and then I'm going to say if guess is less than my number, and now I need to get the order of these things in the right order here. So what I can do is if I'm confused where I'm at, I can reset this, I can go back, I can run this again and say, okay, 3, guess higher but close. So that's wrong. It's saying guess higher but close, but I want it to say guess higher. So this one's in the wrong spot. I'm going to flip these around. Okay, and then let's see if that did it. That might have done it. And then run it, and so I guess 1. Oops, I can't guess 1 because it was at 1 at the default. I'll guess 2. Okay, so it guesses higher. If I went back to 1, now it does. It says guess higher, that's correct. Guess higher, that's correct. So now 4 should be within 2. So guess higher but close, that's correct. Guess higher but close, that's correct. 6 is spot on. 7, guess lower but close. 8 should be the same, and 9 should just say guess lower. Right, so all of those work, so that's in the correct order. Now this thing will work if you have this exact case on the bottom. It doesn't really matter. It seems to work either way, because I've seen other ones that where they put this one on the bottom. So even though that is the most narrow case, it will still work at the bottom because it has to be exactly 6. Alright, so that one's done. So what I want to do, I want to finish, and you're going to have like a couple of things here where you have a video. You can watch that. This is getting into these conditionals and those are tricky. This explains how they work, and again, those are tricky. So if you're struggling with this, take a look at this. This might help you out, but then again, it might confuse you more. So it might be easier just to try it out and see how it works. Okay, so this next part here is using the OR operator. So that's the one that has the 2 bars. And if you mouse over, of course, any of these, it'll tell you what it is, and you could see examples. If I clicked on that, it's going to show me the documentation, show me how to use it, tell me what it does. So we're using that OR, and what they want us to do is add the boolean expression to the if statement to use an OR to express if it's Saturday or Sunday. We're going to say it's the weekend, or otherwise we're going to say can't wait for the weekend to get here. So basically we want to say whether it's Saturday or Sunday. It's going to prompt for a day by saying enter day of the week. I'm going to type that in, and then it's going to print that out. Whatever I type in, it's going to say the day is the day variable, whatever I put in. I'm putting my code here, which is the if statement, so I'm going to get rid of that little comment block. And then I'm going to go up here and use an OR, because I want it to be Saturday or Sunday. So I'm going to use the equal sign, or the equality operator, on both ends. because what I want to do, I'm going to say if day is equal to Saturday. Now in this case, it's important that I put Saturday in quotes because it's a string. Same thing over on this side. I want to put Sunday in quotes because it's a string, and day is not a string. Day is a variable, so it doesn't go in quotes. So what this is saying now, it's going to prompt me for the day. It's going to print the day is plus whatever I type in as the day. And if the day is equal to Saturday or the day is equal to Sunday, it's going to say it's the weekend. Otherwise, it's going to say can't wait for the weekend to get here. One thing that's important, you notice I typed these in. I used sentence case, capital S, capital S. It's important that they go in the same way, because if I type Saturday as a lowercase, that's going to be different than Saturday with an uppercase. So I'm going to hit run. It's going to ask me what day it is. I say Saturday, and it says it's the weekend. So if I go back and try that again with another day of the week, let's say Monday, it's going to say can't wait for the weekend to get here. Let's try Sunday. So I type in Sunday, and it says it's the weekend. Now let's try, just to show you this, if I type in Saturday with lowercase, it's going to say can't wait for the weekend to get here, because this is not the same as that. So you have to, the cases have to match. In one of the last lessons, they showed you how to change the case of a string that gets entered into a prompt like that, and that's why you would use that. Is so if you want to make sure that the case stays the same as your tests in here, then you could change the case of whatever the user inputs to make sure it stays consistent. So that works. That was pretty easy. We'll go on to the next one, and this is 11. And on this one, we're going to be using the AND operator. So this one is asking me to do something with ages. So it says they provided the starting code where the user enters their age and stores it as a variable. We want to add an if statement. It's already there, right there, with a boolean expression that uses an AND operator to express if the age is between 13 and 19, you want to write you are a teenager. If it's anything else, we're going to say you're not a teenager. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that comment code. This is what I'm using here. I've got two conditions. You're either a teenager or you're not. So I'm making a range. So I want to say if it's between 13 and 19. So I'm using the AND operator first. So I'm going to put that in there. And I'm going to want to use some greater than or less than signs to figure out what's between 13 and 19. I'm going to use the greater than and equal to, just because I like to use those to be more specific. So I'm going to say if age is greater than or equal to 13 and age is also less than, so we'll say age is also less than or equal to 19, then it's going to say you are a teenager. If it's anything else, it's going to say you're not a teenager. So let's see if that works. And I hit run. What's my age? 13. It says you are a teenager. Try it again. Let's say I put in 12. It's going to say I'm not a teenager. Okay, so let's test the upper end of that. Let's say I type in 20. It says I'm not a teenager. And let's try typing in 18, see what it says. You are a teenager. Okay, so that's correct. It works. So what it's doing is it's testing, but it has to meet both of these conditions. It has to be greater than or equal to 13, and it also has to be less than or equal to 19. So somewhere in that, that's how we would set up a range of numbers. So that one, pretty easy. The next one is some more text that you can go through and read. This is compound booleans, and this is where it gets tricky, because now we're adding ands and ors nested in each other, and if you don't keep track of it, it makes it really difficult. So we'll go ahead and click continue, and we'll look at what 13 is. So 13 wants us to combine and or. It gives us an example here of some code, and what we want to do it says add an if statement that uses both and or. The app should write sleep in if it's a weekend and the user is a teenager. Otherwise, it should write have to wake up. So we want to know two things. We want to know if it's the weekend and what the age of the person is. So I'm going to write my code here. I'm going to get rid of that little comment block. I'm going to drag an if-else statement in here. And there are two things that I want to write. One of them is that sleep in. So I'm just going to copy that sleep in right there with the quotes because I'm going to need them. Actually, I probably could have not because now I got to delete these out. Oops, I got errors popping up there. Delete those quotes out, paste that in there, sleep in, and then the other one is have to wake up, and I'll do that without the quotes this time, make it easier. So I'm gonna put that in there. Okay, so I've got two things happening. Now I want to figure out what the math is here. So I only want to say sleep in if it's a weekend and if the person has this age within that range, if they're a teenager. So same as it's basically the last two combined. So I know I want to use the and block because that's the two sides of my arguments here. I've got on one side what's the day, and on the other side what's the age. Then it has to meet both of those. So we said Saturday or Sunday. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the or, I'm going to put that in the first side because this is going to be the Saturday or Sunday. And on the other side is going to be an and that's going to be the range of ages. So for the first part, I want Saturday or Sunday to be equal to Saturday or Sunday. So I'm going to say if the day is equal to Saturday in quotes as a string, or not day, age, day is equal to Sunday in quotes as a string. So if either one of these are true, and if I fall within that age range of a teenager, which we said before was greater than or less than a certain number, and greater than or equal to, and then less than or equal to a certain number. So now this is if age. So if age is greater than or equal to 13, because that's the first teen, and age is less than or equal to 19. So now what it should say here is that that variable isn't there. I must have deleted that out of there. It should say age. Okay, so what it's asking for, it's going to prompt for two things. First, it's going to ask the day of the week, and then it's going to ask what the age is. It's going to write those up in the screen here. It's going to say the day is whatever I enter as day, and age is whatever I enter as age. Then we go into the if statement, and it says if the day is equal to Saturday or Sunday, and the age is greater than or equal to 13, and the age is less than or equal to 19, then say sleep in. Otherwise, we're going to say have to wake up. So it has to meet those two conditions here before it says sleep in, and if it doesn't meet either one, then it goes to say have to wake up. So let's test that, see if it works. So day of the week, I'm going to say Saturday, and then for my age, I'm going to go ahead and say 13. So it should say sleep in, and it says sleep in. So let's reset that, and I'm going to try Sunday because let's see, Sunday, and I'm going to say 13, and it should say sleep in. Okay, it says sleep in. And now what happens if it's Monday and we're 13? So have to wake up. Okay, so that's good. And then what happens if it is Sunday and we are 25? It should say have to wake up. Yep, it does. Okay, so that works correctly. We use the and or operators there. So the and is the overall big one, and we have an or in the smaller end here and an and in the smaller end there. and then some equals, and then some greater than or less thans. Okay, so that's that. So we're going to move on to the next one. 14, and these get a little bit trickier as we go, and 15 is going to be the hardest one. This one's not that difficult. So what we're doing is it's similar to the last one. We'll recreate the museum price example that they showed in an earlier video, and everything is set up except for the in the if statement. Currently it says if age is less than 21, you get a discount. So in this case, if we ran this, no matter what day it is, if I run it and I say I am 14, calculate, it's going to say you get a discount. If I'm older than 21, it's going to say you must pay full price. So that's what it does now. But what I want to do instead is I want to say they get a discount if it's Tuesday or Thursday, or the age is between 12 and 21. So I'm going to get rid of this here because I don't need that age anymore. But I want to use the or this time because my two sides to my argument here, on one side I'm saying it's Thursday or Friday, or if the age is between this. So on one half of the or is going to be the day, and the other half of the or is going to be the age. So same as before, instead of Saturday or Sunday, I'm using Tuesday or Thursday, but everything else is the same. So I'm going to take an or, and I'm going to say if day, or no, wait, I got to put some equal signs in there first, don't I? Some equal signs, and now I'm going to say if day is equal to Tuesday as a string in quotes, or day Thursday as a string in quotes. So so if it were Tuesday or Thursday, it's going to give me a discount, or it's going to give me a discount if there's an age, and I want that between 12 and 21. So I'm going to use the and operator here, and I'm going to use the greater than or less thans, or sorry, greater than or equal to, and then less than or equal to's to get my age range. So I'm going to say if age is greater than or equal to 12, and the age is also less than or equal to 21, then it should say I get a discount. So now let's reset this and let's run it. So I'm going to put in, let's say if I put Monday, and if it's Monday and I'm 12 and I calculate, it says you get a discount because I met this part right here, equal to 12. And because we have the or, it doesn't matter which side you meet. As long as you meet one of them, it's going to say you get a discount. Otherwise, it's going to say paid in full. So same thing, let's say it's Monday, and let's say I am 6. Now I'm less than 12, so let's see, calculate. I have to pay full price because it's outside of this range here, and it's not Tuesday or Thursday. And now if we go to say it's Thursday and I'm 6, calculate, you get a discount. And in this case, if you were somewhere in the range and it's Thursday, it still should say you get a discount. So that works correctly. I'm saying whether it's Tuesday or Thursday, or if my age is within this range between 12 and 21, I get a discount. So that's how that one works. You don't have to worry about this down here. This just resets it so you can keep on clicking and calculating. That's all this thing here does, is every time we do this, it resets that to a to this thing here to blank. Okay, so that one done. 14. Now 15 is the hardest one here, as always. And what we've got here is we want to combine and, or, and not. And what not is it's this little one right here that's just has an exclamation point. We can put that in front of anything and it reverses the result. So it gives you an example here, but what it wants us to do here is add an if statement that uses and or operators, and the app should write time for school if it's a weekday and the user is under 18. So it's saying weekday this time. Last time we were just testing 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, the weekend, but what it's telling us as a hint is one way to say that it's a weekday is to say that it's not a weekend. So instead of saying the day is equal to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we could just say the day is not equal to Saturday or Sunday, just like we did before, but this time we're saying not. So what I'm going to do first, or no, let's look at, it also wants us to make sure we test these 4 cases here. So weekdays and age, we want to are the 4 basic cases that we have to test. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go ahead and stick in an if-else statement, and I want it to say a couple different things. So let me see here. I want it to say time to go to school, time to go to work, and then time to relax for the weekend. So there they are up there. So I'm going to add another case in here, and I'm going to get some text. And sometimes I find it easier to put these in first, just because it really spells out what I need to do. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to say time for school. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put it in here. Then I want it to say time to go to work here in the next case, and then the last case is going to be time to relax for the weekend. And for here, I'm just going to make that the else case, because if it doesn't meet, if you're not going to school or work, it must be the weekend. So next thing, so that means I only have to come up with 2 ways to test this. There are different ways to do this. There's probably about 3 or 4 different ways to do this. I'm going to show you what I think seems to be the easiest, even though it's not going to be the shortest. So first thing I want to do is I want to check the day and see if actually let me step back. What I want to do is I want to be checking the day and the age. So I'm going to take the AND blocks, and I'm going to do that for both of them, because both of them I'm doing the same thing. And the first half here of the AND is going to be the day, and that's going to be the same whether you are going to school or work. So in that case, I want to say that it's not Saturday or Sunday. So I'm going to take a not block and drag that in there, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. Drag a not block in there, and then I want to do Saturday or Sunday, so I need an or block is going to go inside that. Let's see, yeah, it's going to go inside that. So I'm going to get another, because I want these both to be the same, so I'm just doing the same thing with both sides, because the days are going to be the same. The only thing that's going to change is the ages. So first thing I'm going to say that it's not Saturday or Sunday. So I'm going to get my equal signs in there, and then I'm going to do this here, get my equal signs in there, and hopefully that's not confusing doing them all at once. But now I'm saying day, and this says equal to, but remember I put the not in front of it. So the day is not equal to Saturday is what I'm actually saying here, or the day is not equal to Sunday. So because I've got the exclamation point, this is saying if the day is not Saturday or Sunday, it's time for school. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here, because now it's time for work if it's not Saturday or Sunday. Saturday, and it's if the day is equal to Sunday not. So that should satisfy the day. So then if it's a weekday, it should say time for school and time to go to work. Now the next thing is the age. So if this one's relatively simple. So all I want to do here is I just want to say that if you're less than 18, then you should be going to school. So what I'll do is I'll say, and actually I'll say if you're less than or equal to 18. So if age is less than or equal to 18, then I'm going to say go to school, and then we'll say if age is greater than 18, then we'll say go to work. And then otherwise, regardless of what happens, so on here, if it is Saturday or Sunday, it's automatically going to jump out of this and it's going to go down to the end. So it doesn't matter which one. So in this case here, if it comes up here and it says, ooh, wait, yes, it is Saturday, then it's going to jump out and come down to time to relax for the weekend. But if it's not Saturday or Sunday, then it's going to check the age, and if the age is here, then it's going to say time for school. And then it's if the age is outside that range, it's going to come down here. It should check the day again, and then it will check the age, and then it should say time to work. That's probably more complicated than it needs to be. You can actually do this with fewer blocks, but up here they tell us to use the and ors, but you can do it without doing that. So let's check that and see if that works. Let's check all the cases here. So let me see, oops, let me cancel that and then cancel that. Let me go back to the bottom here so I can see my cases, and then reset, run. So it says a weekday and age is under 18. So I'll type in Monday, and then under 18 we'll say 14. And then okay, it should say time for school. That's correct. So now let's run it again, and now it's a weekday, so we'll say Monday, and then we'll say it's not under 18. So we can say, if you're not under 18, we can say that you are 25. It should say go to work. Yep, it says go to work. And then the third case, it says it's not a weekday, which means that it must be a weekend, which means it must be Saturday. And the age is under 18, so we'll call it 14. And it says time to relax, and that's correct. And now let's one more time test the last case. And it says it's not a weekday, so that must be, let's try Sunday just to make sure Sunday works. Okay. And then not under 18, we'll say 25. It should say time to relax, hopefully. Yep, there it is, time to relax. So that works correctly. But like I said, there's a shorter way to do it. But this one, sometimes it maybe makes more sense to do the longer way, just because it is easier to think out. But there is a way that we can do this that's shorter. And for all of these, there's usually more than one way to do them. So that's 1 through 15 in Lesson 9 for Unit 5. Hope that helped, and good luck with the rest of your lessons.